MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan. MIAPJ0000PUS slipped about 0.1%. But Japan's benchmark Nikkei stock average and 225 bucked the downtrend and tracked overnight gains on Wall Street, adding 0.9% and breaking a four-session losing streak. And Asian investors continued to monitor developments in Thailand, following news the army had declared martial law after 6 months of anti-government protests. The SET index SETI pared early losses but was still down 0.8%. And the declaration of martial law was intended to restore peace and order and does not constitute a coup, Deputy Army spokesman Colonel Winthai Suvari told Reuters. And Thailand's baht initially fell against the dollar but later steadied on what dealers suspected was intervention by the country's central bank. And the dollar was slightly higher against the yen after dropping to its lowest in more than 3 months overnight. It last bought 101.56 yen, after dipping as low as 101.11 yen on Monday, its weakest level since early February, as investors bet that the Bank of Japan will maintain the status quo. And the BIJ is set to conclude its latest two-day policy meeting on Wednesday. Governor Haruhiko Kuroda has maintained an optimistic view of the Japanese economy, keeping easing expectations at bay. And if Kuroda makes dovish comments tomorrow, then the dollar yen may manage to stay above the 200-day average. But if he intentionally stresses his optimistic economic views, markets will take it as a sign he accepts a higher yen and a fall in stocks, said Osamu Takashima, head of FX strategy at Citigroup Securities in Tokyo. And the recent decline in U.S. Treasury yields made dollar-based investments less attractive. And the yield on benchmark U.S. 10-year notes inched up to 2.54% in Asia from its U.S. close of 2.53% on Monday, but remained close to 6-month lows marked on Thursday last week. And on Monday, Dallas Federal Reserve President Richard Fisher and San Francisco Fed President John Williams both reinforced market expectations that the U.S. central bank is in no hurry to hike interest rates. And minutes of the Federal Reserve's last policy meeting are scheduled to be released on Wednesday, but are unlikely to give investors any solid clues about the timing of a U.S. interest rate hike. And 7 Federal Reserve presidents are scheduled to speak around the release of the FOMC minutes, and all of them will be just as elusive as Fed Chair Yellen in providing very little guidance on when rates will rise, Kathy Lean, Managing Director of FX Strategy for BK Asset Management, said in a note to clients. And the euro remained under pressure of its own, after European Central Bank officials signaled that further easing steps are likely to come next month. And the common currency was steady on the day at $1.3711, but remained not far from its low of $1.3648 on Thursday, which was its lowest since late February. And in commodities trading, U.S. crude inched up slightly to $102.64 after the weaker dollar lifted it close to a 1-month high in the previous session. And editing by Eric Muir, and back to top. And Thomson Reuters is the world's largest international multimedia news agency, providing investing news, world news, business news, technology news, headline news, small business news, news alerts, personal finance, stock market, and mutual funds information available on Reuters.com, video, mobile, and interactive television platforms. Thomson Reuters journalists are subject to an editorial handbook which requires fair presentation and disclosure of relevant interests. And NYSE and Amex quotes delayed by at least 20 minutes. Nasdaq delayed by at least 15 minutes. For a complete list of exchanges and delays, please click